Welcome to Blackout 2.0, which we just launched on the Blackout Next app. This is a free upgrade for all users, no matter if you've had the app for 4 years or 4 days. We're doing a soft launch on a new app, Blackout Next, so that we can ease the transition to 2.0. Yes, you can actually run both apps on one iPad until we phase out Blackout version 1 and any old 2.0 builds in the next few months. We've added so many incredible features and upgrades. I'm so excited to share them with you. I definitely have to start with an amazing thank you to my new developers who have risen to the challenge and just crushed this complete overhaul. I'd also like to thank those beta testers that took their time to share their extensive notes with me to focus us on the tasks that we needed to accomplish to put this out in the field. So first things first, any old show files you've had in previous versions will not work in this new version. Even old 2.0 builds. This has a brand new architecture, and this is the first time that you are experiencing it. It should feel blazing fast as we focused on efficient data handling. So if it doesn't, then there's probably something wrong with your setup. You should be running the latest version of Blackout Next as well as the latest iOS, which right now is 17.3. Upon opening the app, you'll see we've totally redone the login flow. You now verify your account as you log in, and that will register the device as one of your 2 allotted devices for your account. You can log into another iPad, that could be someone else's iPad, with a completely different Apple ID, because your Blackout account is like a Netflix login. Now, if you have filled up your 2 devices and need to log into another device, you first need to deactivate one of your other 2 devices. You simply log out of one of your used devices and it will automatically remove that device from your account, freeing up one more device slot. Obviously, you have to be connected to the internet in order for the deauthorization to take place. So the app won't let you log out or even log in without being online. Now, one key component to this, we've not only rewritten the app, but we've completely rewritten the website and database. So if you have an account on the old app, you simply need to reset your password by going to the home page, login, forgot password, to then reset your password and get into the new system. Now, these are 2 different accounts. So whatever you change here in the Blackout Next world or new website, this will not update in the old app. So if you need the 2 to be in sync, please contact me through the Help Center. Blackout Next is like the Astera Next in that it's a public beta or preview of the next build that will be released on the official Blackout Lighting Console app when it's deemed set-worthy. Blackout Next builds will use a red highlight while the official app will still have its normal blue color. The next thing that you're going to notice is that we've moved the settings to a much more convenient place within the app so that the only thing that you should need to do here is create and import or export your projects from these opening screens. Okay, now diving into the app, you will notice a sleek, brand new interface. We not only have the top playback area where you can see what look you are in from anywhere in the app, it allows you to press go and back without having to find the looks sidebar. Lock is a nifty feature to lock your console, but for those asking to have a keypad lock, are you crazy? What would happen if everything went to full strobe, you locked it and then died? No one could access your iPad and this would be a safety concern. We changed channel everywhere to say fixture as this is a more appropriate term for all of the LED fixtures we are controlling. You'll also notice that we have a completely new command keypad, and this is going to allow you a lot more control over your fixtures. But we have not wired everything up yet, so right now only intensity commands really work. We are in the middle of rewriting this component and each update will bring new syntax options, so please hang tight. This also means that macros won't fully work either since they are tied to commands. We start you fresh without anything patched now because tungsten is so yesterday that it's not even worth patching dimmers until you need them. Going into patch, you will see we've also streamlined this process. Tap add fixtures, or patch dimmers if you just need to add some quick dim channels. Once you click add fixtures, you will see all profiles that are or have been patched in this project under my show fixtures. You cannot edit or delete a profile if it is patched right now. If you are starting fresh, this will obviously be empty. Tap add from database where you will pull some 33,000 fixture profiles from the Carillon database. To find the profile you are looking for incredibly quickly, we've broken up the search into 3 fields, which will now allow you to search the manufacturer, fixture name, and motor description separately. These can be combined to narrow your search quickly, and you can tap into a folder to limit the fixtures that appear in the third column even further, which are all of the combined profile results. We'll soon even have a preferred option where you can see the profiles I would choose that I think are the best film profiles. Lastly, you can star a profile, which will add this to your favorites folder to your profile so that no matter what device you log into, you will be able to access your favorites. After tapping patch on a profile, you'll see the new patch layout that we are still working on, but you will essentially get 3 zoom levels of the selected universe so you can easily see how everything fits. There's also one huge change we made to fixture profiles, and that is the addition of modules. Now, every fixture has modules, and within those modules are channels. This is to help partition fixtures appropriately for lighting control, as it's done on most major consoles. Now in Blackout version 1, cells showed up as individual boxes next to the head channel, but each cell could only be of the same type. Each cell is what you would expect, another partition of the light. However, some newer fixtures have multiple sets of cells, such as the ROX Cluster S2, which has some pixels that have dimmer only, and some pixels that are RGB, which make for the necessity to have multiple module types within a single fixture. Furthermore, moving lights, although they may be a single head, maybe even with no pixels, they can still have a foreground and background element or an effect layer, and those are now modularized to help for greater control over a fixture. The idea is that you can select the pillbox to see just the parameters within that module. Otherwise, if you have a foreground element that has RGB and then a background element that has RGB, it's really hard to show 2 color wheels in one layout and easily understand what you are controlling as a user. Now you can select the foreground element, which has an RGB color wheel, or the background, which has an RGB color wheel, or both, which now combine to show you one color wheel, which will affect both modules. Pretty intuitive, right? Once you understand this, you'll see how much easier it is to control really advanced fixtures. Before you start controlling your fixtures, check out the new link status dropdown, which has undergone a major revision in the back end, where we can not only prioritize a type of connection, such as wired versus wireless, but we can automatically switch between them if you are connected to both and then lose connection on one. This will allow us greater flexibility in the future for hardware integrations without losing connection to your lighting network. You will soon be able to choose what connection type to prioritize. And connecting to your network is solid now. There is no more beta, ignore Wi-Fi status setting to deal with, or having to switch between protocols. So if you are not getting output, something is probably wrong with your setup. And the best way to troubleshoot is checking out my troubleshooting video, or go to the new Help Center. Just a quick note on the Help Center.
Help me help you. Help me help you.
Please, I know you've gotten used to emailing me, and I did that so that I can provide you the best support and you can know that you are heard from me, the creator, directly. But I will still respond in the Help Center. It's still just me. It's just there to help me organize the bugs that you find and your suggestions into actions that my developers can take. And when they complete the task, you will get notified when it's done so that it's also easier for you to keep track of what your requests have been implemented or bugs have been fixed. So please,
Help me help you.
and use the Help Center. Next up, the table view. This is something I have been waiting for forever. It allows you to see all of the parameters of your lights in one table or spreadsheet view. You no longer have to tap and hold a fixture pillbox to see what color temperature your light is at, or if one in the group is incorrectly set. You can tap in any cell and edit directly. Want to type in DMX values directly? You can easily do this through the DMX view. The custom view is a new addition which allows you to set only the fixtures you want to see in a new view. This will eventually become a dropdown for adding more custom views as suggested by a savvy user. We still have a bit of work to do here, but we will be adding a new top nav bar to allow for enhanced view states, so you can see where your data is being controlled, whether it's a fader, sequence, effect, or see the output values from the combined sources. The sidebar has also been greatly improved from the former Rolodex design in that each feature is now stuck in place to allow for your muscle memory to develop for faster workflow capabilities. To enter the expanded view, all you need to do is double tap on the object in the sidebar. A lot of these still need some UI work, which we will get to, but take a look at fixture controls, which has been completely revamped for a greater experience. Now it's much easier to fine tune your values as each slider has plus and minus buttons below it for incremental change versus trying to move a tiny slider with a big finger. You can also hold the value to directly type in a number, and now you can filter by parameter through the top category buttons. Furthermore, you'll see that we've completely separated out the color control in this right sidebar, which has been completely refreshed. Now we do a complete conversion through all color spaces, from HSI to RGB to XY and CMY, and you can see the full effect of this in the advanced color mode here at the top right of the screen. The bottom right section is for common gels and colors we will be adding in due time, so hang tight. There are a few more things that we are cleaning up here to make it a bit nicer, and some features we have on the list, such as a pan and tilt grid and shutter display. But if you need to access pan tilt, we do still have the pop-up encoders that should allow you precise control to focus your moving lights. We've gotten rid of the flash button because very few people used it, and we've replaced it with a much quicker and more efficient flash full and flash out button. These are temporary buttons which allow you to flash the fixtures you have selected quickly in either direction. Don't worry, for all of those channel check users, that is definitely going to come back in a huge way for greater flexibility and more control. The other thing that we've added in Blackout is tracking. So now from look to look, you will see colors of your values. Green means that it's gone down since the last look. Green grass, it's going down. Blue means it's gone up since the last look, blue to the sky. Yellow means that it is controlled by another fader, and purple means that it is tracked. Soon we will also have white, which means it's the same value as the last look, basically like purple, except that you specifically typed that in and saved it in that look. That constitutes as a block, and that is something we will get into more in depth as we redo our update pop-up. Another note about color is that anything that is yellow is controlled from another fader outside of the selected sequence that you have here in your looks list. If you want to go ahead and select another sequence, boom. Now everything that is yellow is controlled by an outside fader, which in this case is the main sequence, which had virtually everything stored on it except fixture 1's intensity and color. So now if I go back, there's where the switch happens. Okay. Now, for the two biggest features we've added to Blackout, sequences and faders. If you are new to faders, don't be shy, because I've spent a lot of time designing faders in the most intuitive way possible for all users, regardless if you have console experience or not. My biggest complaint in learning other consoles is how hard and complicated faders can be because they have so many configuration options, it's overwhelming. We've simplified it without losing the power and control you need. I'm stoked for you to experience this new feature. The first thing that I want to show you is how easy it is to get a fixture on a fader. Simply tap the load button above any fader and it will give you several options to directly load into the fader. Right now, a fixture, group, or effect. More may be coming. So let's start with fixtures. Tap your fixture and then choose the parameter you want to be on the fader. Most of the time, you're gonna want intensity, which is auto-filled for you, but feel free to choose what suits your needs. Now, here's where you get to choose the priority of the fader, and in general, I would start this as LTP unless you want to inhibit values, which I will get to momentarily. LTP means latest takes precedence. And if you are new to lighting, this is one of the biggest concepts you need to learn, because whatever you are touching last will take control. And this applies to the command line as well. The alternative is highest takes precedence, in that whatever value is higher will take control. Now, if a fader is not inhibitive, it's by default additive. This means that it will add to any value the fixture is already at to ensure a smooth transition from one place of control to another. You usually want this, and by default, we turn this on. However, some people need to use faders that don't do this, and for that we have non-additive faders. By unchecking the additive button, now when you bring up your fader, the value will jump to the level of the fader as it now has direct control. Everything in the app follows a priority hierarchy, so that at any given point in time, a parameter knows what controls it. This is something we hope to make even more clear through view states that you will be able to access through the top nav bar that I mentioned earlier. Take a quick look at this overall hierarchy of the app. When we finish the park feature, this will allow you to park values of a fixture wherein not even the master fader can affect it. Underneath is the master fader, then the inhibitive faders. So if you want to inhibit a fixture from going above a certain value, I can set this to inhibitive, which will inhibit the intensity, and then put this, say, at 50%. And now not even another fader in super priority or my command line can take this above 50%. Effects are right below inhibitive faders because they can be limited by inhibitive faders, but they can't be overwritten by anything else, not even a super priority fader. Next on the list is super priority, which we do a slightly cool thing in that we start it as additive, and when it reaches the top, we turn it non-additive. Because whenever I want to take control of a fixture for, say, a critical lighting cue, I often want to add to the value of whatever my look has my light at, then bring it up to the level I want, and perhaps then turn it off. Notice how in super priority faders, we also by default turn off auto stop. This is usually because once you put something on a super priority fader, you want that fader to have total control. The little extra thing that we do is really just for how it takes over. Now, not even my command line can overwrite a super priority fader, and thus it's the perfect, hey, let's throw that light on a fader, I wanna do this cue live kind of deal. These options can all, of course, be changed to your preference for your workflow. Next down the list is freeze, and that is something we're also still working on as we rewrite the command line. But basically it will turn your command line into a frozen state or a super priority so that you can still play looks and those manual values that you have adjusted will not change until you unfreeze them. Just so you're aware, we are actually turning the console into a proper coding language so that it has the support of how a proper language is parsed into commands. This will ensure a rock solid command line and the ability to add virtually any syntax we want. We appreciate your patience while we totally transform this experience for you. Below freeze is the command line, and this can overwrite any fader below super priority. We are making one slight change in that if you dump a fader and then bring it back up, it will take over the manual value, as it seems like most people really want that to keep consistent with how they operate on other lighting consoles. HTP faders will use the intensity value as comparison on what level to output to the active fixtures, but other parameters stored in here will use LTP simply for the fact that there are no HTP for things where one gel is higher than another gel or one color is higher than another color. They're just different, and therefore we use LTP. High is one step above the default LTP and is a great option if you leave everything in the default LTP, but need one thing to take control. The high fader won't be overwritten by an LTP fader. So hopefully that gives you a pretty solid idea of how faders work in Blackout and the decisions behind them. As you can see, they are extremely powerful, and if we dive into some of these configuration options, they can easily be customized to give you whatever control you need. Auto start turns the fader on when it's brought up from 0, while auto stop will kill the fader when it goes to 0. Off when overwritten is usually a good idea to be kept on for most scenarios because it helps keep priorities clear when you control a fixture from multiple faders. You activate one and then say I bring this high priority fader up, it will completely take over the value and turn off any other faders that previously had control of it if it overwrites all of the values in those other faders because it's now taken over. If I had off on overwritten off, then I could turn off this high priority fader and the fixture would now revert to the value of the next in line, which was my LTP fader, which was never overwritten and turned off. It's still active. Wraparound is an easy one in that if you have a sequence on this fader with say 3 looks, when you press go on the last look, it will cycle back to play the first look. Exclude from record is definitely a very powerful configuration option, and for most people in film, I would expect you would want this off because as you use faders to alter your levels, you will inevitably want to record the state of the board. And if this is not on, then the fader value that you've adjusted will not be recorded. And if you went back to this look, that value is gone. In the live world, faders are used a lot more to adjust values on top of your look temporarily, and they often don't want to save those values into the look. Where this might be helpful to turn on is in a temporary lighting cue, or if you have work lights on a fader. You probably don't want to record those values into a look, so I would put those maybe even to a super priority fader with record turned off. There are also 2 buttons below the faders that you can set to be flash, temp, or toggle right now, and more are coming. With that overview of faders, you might realize that with the addition of sequences in Blackout, you can literally record anything you want into a fader through a sequence. Say I wanted a group of fixtures in blue to be on a fader so that at any point I can bring this fader up and everything will go blue as a nice transition look between songs in a little live busking scenario. I would simply select my fixtures, put them in blue, and then record them into a new sequence. In this case, I want to record all values of my selection, so I will just tap selection only and specify a new sequence number. This will automatically load this onto the next available fader. Oh yeah, and we will be able to move faders in an upcoming update. The thing to be careful of is if you select record manual values only, because only the parameters that are read will be recorded into this sequence. So say you have CCT recorded and then you adjust tint elsewhere, when you play this sequence or this look, tint will not change because you did not overwrite that value. If you want 0 to be in there along with your CCT, you need to specifically call that out, which you can do by typing in the value and making it red, or double tapping on, say, the color category, which would make the entire color category parameters red for recording. Again, incredibly powerful feature here, but with it comes great responsibility to really learn the console so that you understand how best to achieve the results you want. Once you realize this, lighting with sequences and faders is basically like using Photoshop, right? You have layers in Photoshop. You have a base layer that you add your PDF image to, and then you create another layer to add your graphics, and then another layer for your text. And these are non-destructive because you can hide or show them at any given point. This is the same thing here as you stack sequences and faders on top of each other. You're adding to that light output, and as you take away or you're pulling from the stack and it's affecting everything, so you have to understand what you are doing when multiple fixtures are being controlled by multiple faders. So now, how do you connect this all to MIDI? It's super easy, but first, I've released all of these amazing new powerful features of Blackout 2.0 for free. So MIDI had to be a paid extra in order to feed the development team for all of the amazing work that they've done and the amazing new features that are yet to come. If you want this to succeed in the world, please support it with your money. Once you purchase MIDI, you will notice this MIDI Connect button now appears in your link status dropdown. We scan both Bluetooth connectivity and USB at the same time, so you can plug in your MIDI controller in any way that suits you and it will immediately show up in the connection list. Once you are connected, simply hit the MIDI Learn button, and now anything that has a yellow border around it can be assigned to a physical MIDI button. More will come. We plan on doing pretty much the whole entire interface, but the major features should be in there right now. You can even assign the sidebar buttons to a MIDI button for quick navigation. But what you're here for is connecting them to faders. And since we have bidirectional fader control, this is where it gets really cool. Simply tap a yellow fader, then move a fader on your MIDI controller. Done. It's literally that easy. Don't forget to exit out of the MIDI Learn state when you are finished, and now you have total control physically or virtually, and they are both in sync. Now, if yours isn't as simple and easy as that, then your MIDI controller is probably in an alternate mode. Both the Behringer X-Touch Compact and Korg Nano Control 2 can be put in these alternate modes. Check my help center or the manufacturer's website for instructions. Lastly, we are also in the middle of revamping the effects engine, but I wanted to go over a key change we've made here. If you enter into the light settings in a step, the left bar allows you to hide or show parameters in that step. By hiding them, you are essentially ignoring them from that step. However, this is different than if you were to turn them on and use the background value. The background value will refresh every step, unlike ignore, which completely ignores the parameters. So, an example would be if you just did an intensity only effect. I can run my color wheel while the effect is playing and all other parameters are ignored. If I turn on color and use background value, it will refresh upon that step when the effect reaches it. So let me show you this, where I set up the first step to be red. We've implemented tracking, so the second step also shows up as red, and this is clutch for those who just need a red chase to happen. So let me show you this where I set the first step to red. The second step you'll notice actually also goes to red because we've implemented tracking, which is to help you in achieving the effect you want to achieve. If I were to put this to background, at this point, it would go to the background value, which maybe I have is 3200. So it will go to red in step 1 and then back to 3200 Kelvin in the second step as it's fading out, which is probably not what you're looking to do. So we are automatically taking care of this for you by default through this tracking feature, which of course you can override either by hiding or showing the parameter to include it in the effect and either setting a value or using the background value. Whew, there's a lot in there. And of course there's a lot of touch-ups coming, but this is a solid version with a ton of new features and functionality that you can take advantage of right now. For all of those feeling a bit overwhelmed by this new version, honestly, take the time to learn it. Software can only get more complex as people request features and we implement them. That being said, the heart of Blackout is still the same. At the end of the day, you just go to patch, find any fixture you want, now with this upgraded database with more profiles, use a nicer version of fixture controls to control them, save groups, favorites, looks, effects, as always. That's all I have for this video. Check out 2.0 and good luck on your next shoot. Thanks for watching.